Broadcasting from beautiful, tropical Vero Beach, Florida, it's Money Nation with Ed Gardner.
Good morning and welcome to Money Nation. Today's special guest is Roman Jaquez. Roman is an actor, editor, filmmaker. Roman, thanks for being with us here today.
Hi, Ed. Thank you for having me.
Tell us about your new, you've been getting all kinds of awards and accolades. You were over in London. You were in Paris. I see you down in Cannes. Tell us about what you're going over there, and then we'll talk about how you got started.
First, thanks for having me. Love your podcast, like your energy, your content, your past guests. So it's really nice to be here with you. And so it's quite humbling, actually. To answer your questions, all these European trips for the past 2 years have been quite fun, for lack of a better word. You know, I made a movie, I wrote, directed, collaborated with some great talents from across the country here in the United States. We made a movie, a drama about forgiveness and fatherhood. It's a really unique project. I broke all the rules that there is to be broken and made something quite unique. And sure enough, the Europeans and here in North America, the audience have loved it. So we have been nominated for so many awards in all categories. And most recently, I'm going to London in just a week time from this interview. I am up for 5 award nominations again: Best Director, Best Cinematography, Best Original Screenplay, Best Original English-speaking film, Best Supporting Actor, and it's just Best Editing. So it's just really, really, really fun. I'm grateful for it, especially not because of the awards. That's honestly, it's good to have the affirmation. But to wrap up this answer is because the film itself really does touches the heart of the audience. And, you know, there's a lot of people that have father issues in their relationships, or fathers who have broken relationships with their children. And this movie, with a lot of compassion, brings about a safe space for relationships to reconcile or to have those conversations. And it gives people permission to acknowledge their emotions and to step into that space with compassion and with love towards forgiveness for fathers and vice versa.
Great topic. Everyone needs that. That's a problem on, like you said, fathers and sons. And what a great project to try to bring fathers and sons together. It's pretty amazing. Let's step back a little bit and go back to the first movie you were involved with, which was called Happy End. Very interesting how you got involved with that and how you got into the movie business. Why don't we start there back in 2003?
Sounds great. All right. So, you know, living in New York City, love New York City. I will start with that. It's my heartbeat, and it is such a vibrant and rich, culturally rich city. One of the things that really poked at my curiosity was seeing all these movie and TV sets, big trucks, camera lights. And it was a huge mystery to me to see how this technology is placed right in front of a character, an actor, actress, and somehow, like magic, their image and sound ends up in a screen. I could not comprehend the technology or the science behind it. So the curiosity got the best of me. And that movie in particular, I remember I was going to school and to the Art Institute of New York City. And I saw a movie set, and I didn't go to school. I stopped my date, as I would have done in the past. I saw a set, I would stop everything. I would just observe. I will identify who was in charge. I will approach them. In this case, I found who was the assistant director. And I say, hey, I would love to learn. Would you let me volunteer? And I was quite persistent. The guy, I wish I could remember his name. He led me. He said, yes, come in. And I spent several weeks with them. And little did I know that at the time, and still now, a French leading actress, Audrey Tautou, I feel like I mispronounce her name every time, but she was the lead actress in the movie Amelie, which is a cult classic. And so I had an opportunity to be her bodyguard for a week. And then I was moved up to help with the finances with a line producer. So, and I fell in love with it, and it never stopped. I've been in the industry since then, self-employed, and it's been amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. You volunteer for someone, you walk by, and then you get into become, and now you're getting awards, almost 20 years later. and you're still a young guy, so you got a long career to go. What was that movie about, Happy? And just a little bit about that movie. You said you helped produce it, but what was that about?
So the movie is about an immigrant coming to New York and her struggle to cope with the culture and the difference in language, but also finding a job. And the opposite to her is Justin Thorax, the actor, and they had a great chemistry. It was a great ensemble cast. The movie was not in the United States commercially successful, and it did have its space in Europe, especially in France. Of course, she's the darling there. But yeah, the movie was about embracing the timing of it. Now looking back, it's about immigration, but it's a romance comedy. It's a feel-good movie.
Right. What happened after that? What did you move on from there? That was back in 2003. What would you do for the next couple of years before the next movie that you're credited with is Bloodmoney, which is a movie that came out in 2010. Well, lead us up to what happened before that.
It's funny. This is a personal story that I haven't shared publicly, but I have worked in about 18 movies now. And between 2003 and 2010, I directed my own short films, and which was a massive disaster, especially the first one. It was a big learning experience. I made lots of mistakes, spent a lot of money. It was a big failure, and then it was a massive success. Because of it, I actually embraced failures. I love failure, so I pushed myself really hard. And that movie that we're talking about earlier, The Way Forward, about forgiveness, and it's a result of learning how to break the rules based on past failures. And now it's my most successful movie. And go figure. So, but yeah, so I worked in several documentaries. I had an opportunity to travel around the world. I established myself in New York City by leading a small community of filmmakers and actors, both in theater and film, also in television. I grew it from 300 to 3,000 between 2004 and 2006. And then I gave it up because I got married in 2006. So I started to spend more time in investing in that relationship, now my wife. But it's been a truly an amazing journey, helping charities around the world tell their stories, dining with diplomats, royals. Oh, so many cool stories. Being invited to North Korea. Anyways, it's been far beyond just telling stories. Have been using storytelling to bring people together. And that's actually the heart of my production company, is producing stories that provoke and invite people to experience love, compassion, hope, and curiosity.
Let's talk about the movie Bloodmoney, which was a little controversial. It's a business of abortion, and you came out with that movie. You were the producer on that, and at some point they canceled showings in the beginning because of threats. Let's just talk a little bit about that before we move on.
Yeah, that movie, it's quite special to me, and I came to that movie at the very end of it. I was on my way to Africa to do a documentary on child soldiers in Uganda, and also about abortion in Africa. I was participating in a Pan-Africa conference that was in 2009. And on my way to Africa, I was introduced to the director of Bloodmoney, who gave me a DVD, say, hey, take a look at it. He was already promoting and selling it as completed. I watched it. When I got back to the States, I watched it, and I sent them a 10-page review, encouraging them to pull it away. The movie, being such a sensitive subject, I thought that the movie lacked compassion. It was very straightforward on the subject, and I think there is a lot of trauma around the subject, and I was holding them accountable to be more compassionate towards the audience and be better stewards of their experience. And 3 months later, he got back to me and said, hey, we would like to hire to make these changes. It was very hard to us, but we see the benefit of making these changes. Will you do it? I couldn't. I was way too busy with my own production, but they were relentless in pursuing me. I agreed for 3 months, and we ended up restructuring the entire movie. We ended up bringing Alveda King, who is the niece of Dr. Martha King, Dr. King. And she's herself an advocate and well-respected and well-loved, an incredible human being. She ended up doing the narration. And to make long story short, that movie to me, it's a love movie towards the moms, especially moms that have experienced abortion, and also the fathers. So we look at the history of how abortion came about to be. We interview, several scientists, doctors, former Planned Parenthood clinic owners and operators. We have Norma, goodness, her last name is escaping me. She was Roe in the Roe v. Wade case, and she was an absolute advocate against abortion. But we also have a lot of people that came from both sides. And ultimately, when we were to release the movie, I got a phone call the day before from a theater company saying, hey, we cannot show you movie. We have to cancel it. And we have pre-sold tickets. And oh my goodness, Ed, I tell you what, they were so kind. That person who called me is now one of my closest friends. I love him. We became good friends despite our differences in coming through resolving this. But we saw the beauty and the opportunity coming together despite not having a commonly shared approach to the conflict. Love him, really. So yeah, people showed up, and we learned later on there was Planned Parenthood. They were against it. They put a threat to the theater company. They were private sponsors. And this I learned when someone approached to me who owned for the theater company, said, hey, I wanted to introduce myself. I wanted you to know why your film was canceled. And it was Planned Parenthood who was threatening with financial pressure the theater company. They couldn't compete. And as an end result, the movie went viral. People all love it.
Helped you in a way, right?
Oh my goodness, Ed, I could not purchase that kind of marketing. The movie went on fire internationally, not just in the United States. It got quickly pirated, translated into multiple languages. So it was all over, and it still is all over the internet. People just felt that this movie is too important. There's an urgency to it. We need to show it, and they took the freedom. So in that sense, it was kind of harmful. We didn't lose money. We just barely made the money back, but that's okay.
Well, you basically gave it away for free, right? You basically like open source software, right? You let everyone watch it, right? Or was it because it was streaming already? There's nothing you can do about that.
Well, it was. I would say that it was people who were passionate about the subject to the freedom to get ahead of it and break the process. So some people may call it piracy. Some people may call it stealing. I would say that they were just too passionate about it and they couldn't wait for the process to go. But no hard feelings. It was nice to see that the movie was well received.
I did see that movie. I didn't know you, whatever it was, the 10, 11 years ago. But I did watch it. It was very awakening, very eye-opening. Well, Roman, we're going to take a quick break here. We'll be right back in a second. Remember, listeners, any questions about your portfolio, about investments, always feel free to give me a call at 518-255-8854, or you can email me at edgardner@cutterco.com. We'll be right back.
All opinions expressed by Ed Gardner and or his guests on the Money Nation show are solely Ed Gardner's and or his guests' opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Cutter & Company or any of their affiliates. You should not treat any opinion expressed by Ed Gardner and or guests as a specific inducement to make a particular investment or follow a particular strategy, but only in as an expression of their opinion. Ed Gardner's and his guests' opinions are based on information he considers reliable, but neither Cutter & Company nor affiliates and or subsidies warrant its completeness or accuracy, and it should not be relied upon as such. Always talk to your financial advisor before making such decisions.
Welcome back to Money Nation. Roman, what are some of the directors that have inspired you the most, in your journey of becoming a director or producer?
Oh man, this is all right. So of course I have to throw some of the big names. Tim Burton, for his style. He's just unique. I think he's a rebel. I like him. The Italian filmmaker and actor Roberto Benigni. I love him. Very artistic, very unique. Both his personality and his creativity. Steven Spielberg. Lots of respect for him. And Clint Eastwood, I love him. Again, all of these men have something in common to me, is that they are not just mature in the craft, they're unique in their style. But more than that, I think of them as rebel, and there's some aspect of their personality and their own unique styles that I can relate to, or that I inspire, or that I like to imitate. And it has to do with self-expressions and also being able to push the boundary when it comes to storytelling. So those are some, of course, I like just about anybody that makes a movie.
Exactly. Movie makers are good people. The Clint Eastwood movies, I used to love the spaghetti Westerns, the ones they actually made in Italy. It's kind of weird why they would make Westerns over there. Was the director's name like Sergio Leone or something? Was he the director that I'm not sure, but what do you think about those Clint Eastwood movies that were made in Italy? That's kind of odd that they would go over there and not go to the West, Texas for some
Dude,
reason.
one of my earliest memory, the good, the bad, and the ugly, it was in Spanish. I remember that day and the emotions I was having as if there was right now. And I really believe that was the genesis for me to fall in love with movie. It's just such a different world. That movie is directly tied into the DNA of my relationship with my father. Not just because it's that early on, but it was such an impactful, emotional movie for me. And I just loved it. So yes, that movie is like way up there as part of my psychological makeup for like.
Nice. I like those too. Let's talk about the new project you're on, The
Sure.
Keys to Paradise. It's both a documentary and possibly a show, basically based in the Keys. And tell us a little bit about that.
Now, The Keys to Paradise is a very special project and is the culmination of my last 20 years in the industry, not just in the craft, but also, let me give this in context. I mentioned earlier that I've traveled a lot. And by that, I mean is that I've been exposed to cultures all over the world, 6 continents. I stopped counting cities like 300s. It was just a lot of exposure. And something that I witnessed that changed my life is that we as humanity have love in common. This sounds cliche, but the truth is that when politics, arts, language, music is all put to the side, when we come down to the basic is that we have a common desire to love and to be loved, to belong in community. And when we look at human relationships between parents and children, spouses, diplomatic relationships between nations, it comes down to a desire of self-preservation and a desire to capture and to develop a better quality of life for oneself and for the families. So The Keys to Paradise is a deep collaboration with a new business partner that I consider now a brother, Dash Pathmanandam. He is brilliant businessman, far more creative than he gives himself credit for. And he was the one that approached to me earlier this year to begin with. And check this out. We just had this curiosity conversation. He owns a house in the Florida Keys. And he saw there was something special about the Keys. And he invited me, hey, is there anything we can do with this community? So I scouted it. I've heard of the Keys, never been to it prior to earlier this year. And Ed, what I found was, I'm gonna get emotional, a beautiful role model of doing life well together in community. In the contrast of what we're seeing around the world in the news, the politics division, opinions around COVID, opinions around racial issues, opinions around social justice rights, we are being told, at least it feels to me that we're being indoctrinated by sensational headlines to think that the world is falling apart. What I experienced in the Florida Keys, it's completely opposite. A strong sense of community, not just by speaking about it, by the actions. So for example, the Keys being like Key West, having the southernmost point in the United States, is prone to be on the pathways of hurricanes during hurricane season. Now, as an entire string of islands, they do share that pain point, which is a crisis. It's not a pandemic, but in itself is like a pandemic in that it's a threat that impacts everyone. And because of it, people come together as one. They put the differences aside and they serve and help each other to protect each other from hurricanes. And when COVID came in, it was the same thing. So they do life really well. They put the differences aside and they care for each other. And I thought, oh my goodness. So Dosh and I kept going back and forth. And we agreed that this is a story and a model that the world needs to see. And they opened up their arms. They let us come into the living rooms, their offices, and their backyards. And we produced stunning. I mean, this is by far my most beautiful and quite possibly inspirational story that I've ever produced. And I cannot wait to share it. And that's what I was in Cannes recently for the MIPCOM. trying to negotiate distribution. So I have some follow-up meetings coming up in London at the same time that the festival is happening. There's a lot of interest, so we're optimistic that we will have the right partnership, as we now have the options to negotiate with different distributors as everybody wants to get their hands on it. So that's what we're doing, is trying to just encourage people to step into their own community, embrace beauty in the midst of chaos, and to be curious and find, through compassionate curiosity, belonging within their own tribe.
Yeah, with these times and the division, like you said, political or all kinds of things going on, to find people that are getting along and sharing together and going through it together is pretty amazing. Now, you filmed it in Isle Morada. Is that where it takes place, or is it a fictional area, or how it's documentary and a show? What's the difference on that as well?
Great question. So we started with the Florida Keys, and we saw an opportunity that is not just in South Florida, but there are communities all over the world. So now we have identified communities in Egypt, in Israel, in Australia, in South Africa, here in the United States, across the country. We identified communities in South America, and we have the list of places that are unique in the landscape, and where the communities have existential threats due to environmental issues, which, by the way, is saying that something in our documentary is not just about community and doing life together, but it's also about working together to protect the environment, not just preserve what we have, but also to protect, and also to try, if possible, to revert back so that future generations can enjoy what nature is offering us. So there's a green aspect to it, not political, just a sense of responsibility that when we work together, not only do we experience love and belonging, but we also protect and enrich the environment so that we can all benefit and enjoy it, and future generations can also enjoy it as well. It's really beautiful, not because I made it, it's just the people are featured in it. We film across the Florida Keys throughout, from Key West to Key Largo. Yes, we do focus mostly on Isla Morada, but we go the span of all the islands from south to north.
Tell us some of this, any good stories on the set you want to share with, and either in producing, The Keys to Paradise, or any other past movies you're involved with that you find interesting?
Wow, that's a really good question. The truth is that this movie was a lot of work. And the crazy thing is that we conceived the idea in the spring. Here we are in the middle of the fall, and we have a completed picture. It is wild. We went to work and we executed. So even though it was a lot of work, it did not feel like it. And a lot of it has to do with that sense of community. People were part of it. There was a lot of laughing. There was a lot of, at the beginning, because of COVID, there was some safety guards. Actually, we had safety guards throughout the entire process. But it became very clear there was a trust element that allowed us to be vulnerable. And in that space of vulnerability, allowed us to have fun and enjoy it. So the entire process was fun, crazy long days of work when producing, when filming. But, oh man, getting on a boat with 4 cameras and multiple boats and getting to go fishing or go and look some beautiful sights and incredible, stunning blue water. That's not work.
Yeah, beautiful.
Man. That's play.
That's a beautiful place to work, Roman. That's a beautiful place to work,
Yeah. It's my second home now.
Are you saying it could be both a documentary or regular, like a series show, like on Netflix or something? Could it be both, or is it going to be one or the other?
It is both. So we produced a documentary just on the Florida Keys. It's called The Keys to Paradise, Northern Keys. Yes, I think that's what it is. I'm having a moment right now. And then we have The Keys to Paradise, which is then an episodic television series that it's about the communities of all these countries and cities that I had mentioned earlier. And so we now, when I'm coming to London, I have several meetings with several representatives of some of the cities that we're in discussion with as we're already developing and getting ready to move forward. There's some investors who are excited to give us their money, and it's a great partnership. So it's really fun. It's amazing how quickly these have caught fire.
Right. So the basically the Keys to Paradise would be like a pilot, and then you go from there. If it became a show, then you'd start to develop or film many more episodes to go with it, right?
Correct. Yeah, two different projects, two different business models. The documentary today actually is the beginning of the American film market, and we're starting to promote it and show the documentary publicly for the first time in the industry. And the TV show is we have the scissor reel and all the preparation to show the concept, and we're ready to roll. Beautiful. Sounds really interesting. I wish you the best of luck on that. Now, let me ask you this. You do have a lot going on right now with the Keys to Paradise. You got the awards with The Way Forward over in Paris. What's next for you? I mean, this is going to take some time with the things you're working on, but do you have anything next that you're looking forward to do after this? Yes. Oh, man. Great question. I do have several motion pictures in development. And I didn't realize this until recently that all four of these movies are about women. Women who are heroic based on real life stories. So they are all a celebration of women, a celebration of moms. These are amazing stories of women who have overcome the impossible. And I will keep it simple. I will leave the cliffhanger. If you invite me back, I will expand on them. But yes, I do have 4 movies about women that have overcome these incredible odds and are of significant influence to other women. So I'm really excited about those movies. Sounds like great stuff. Roman, thank you very much for being with us on Money Nation. We wish you the best of luck with everything going on. The best of luck with the Keys of Paradise. I can't wait to see it myself. And we'll be back in touch, and we'll have you back on in the future. All right, Ed. Thank you so much. And thank you to the audience for the time. Thank you for listening. Thank you. Remember, listeners, any questions at all about your portfolio, questions about investments, always feel free to give me a call at 518-255-8854, or you can email me at edgardner@cutterco.com. And remember, for all past interviews, you can go to YouTube and just search Money Nation. Thanks, everyone, for being with us, and have a great day.